over 7.25 billion of them. These people are leading young people astray, making them challenge their assumptions about the nature of the world. These are evil people. I want to become one of them. I think I have the credentials. I do, after all, have a cousin, a very devout Christian, who tells me that what I do is evil because I make young people question their beliefs. Whenever I teach the history of the early church, for example, we start out with a discussion about the project for the year, and I quote Ramsay MacMullen: "Religious historians commit a terrible impiety." And by that he means that religious historians deny the gods any historical agency. Instead, we look at people and people's understanding of their gods in order to understand why history happens. Well, fortunately, to deliver innocent young people from evil people like Steve and Jake and me, there are people like my cousin, or like the member of the school board of Jefferson County in the area just west of Denver, who was alarmed at slipping standards of AP American history classes and introduced a resolution for discussion in the school board last week to raise the standards so that people learn patriotism and the virtues of capitalism and the dangers of civil disobedience. This kind of paternalistic ignorance and its allied sister virtues such as hatred, fear, insecurity, resentment, have always served as some of the principal tools by which our masters control us. But the interesting thing about paternalistic ignorance is that it actually has a philosophical pedigree. It was created about 2,400 years ago by Plato, who developed a very sophisticated argument about how the well-regulated community will be run by a small elite who have access to truth and information and knowledge and control the dissemination of truth so that the masses of us remain in a state of ignorance for our own good. In the Middle Ages, the church took on the role of that small elite, and by the end of the Middle Ages had developed a quite wonderful institution, the university, in order to make sure that that elite was always well staffed by qualified people. Now, the thing about developing a philosophical argument in support of social control through control of information is that you've automatically created space for alternative arguments, even antithetical arguments. And already in the time of Plato, people were knocking holes in his noble lie. And so through the Middle Ages, and by the end of the Middle Ages and the beginning of the modern period and the Renaissance and the Reformation, that noble lie was being exploded, but it is still with us. Even in the 21st century, you will often find people in positions of power and control telling you, you must not know this thing for your own good and for the good of our society. The pastors are still with us saying, don't argue, believe. The governors, don't argue, obey. The generals, don't argue, kill. The professors, don't argue, write down what I told you in your exam. The forces of paternalistic ignorance are still with us, but I enjoin all of you to follow Euhemerus and Miller and Voltaire and Snowden and Kant and Kirby and Nietzsche and those high school students in Jefferson County who boycotted their classes last week and demonstrated against their school board for imposing upon them a narrow and restricted definition of historical truth. Dare to know. Have the courage to ask those questions that are indecent, that you should not be asking. Every one of you, every 7.25 billion of you. Thanks.